dad used to do that all the time.
I usually work on one every day for a little bit of time.
He did to keep his mind fresh.
Yeah.
Until he was 90.
Yeah.
But I don't think his mind was on the ground. I mean, at times it was.
Yeah.
And at times it was not. He did Sudoku. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
He did that a lot too.
Did he? Yeah. I've done that before, and then I kind of like fell off. I wasn't real.
John, I can run back and make
He
copies.
was really smart. He just never kind of used it too much. He was a letter carrier.
Yeah. That's what my teacher
When he was 16, went to the Army for a few years, came back, kept doing that.
Yeah. They used to tell me the same thing.
That you were smart?
Yep. They said you don't apply it.
That's what my teacher said. Some college.
Yeah, I did that.
Just kind of like, because it was over. Remember in the early 70s, anybody could get in.
You had to have money.
You had to have some money.
There wasn't too many.
It wasn't that expensive, wasn't it? Well, there was grants. I had grants.
Yeah. I used to get the Navy. After I got out of the Navy. Because otherwise,
That's godsend. Well, that's what my father was out there the last few years before he died.
yeah,
Tourism video.
my dad too.
Thank God.
It made it.
I'll send it.
Yeah, well, we finally had to put him in assisted living. And
We got
went
Cavs
to
game
court.
tonight, guys. Don't forget.
He was getting
8:30.
Yeah, I was getting 17. Yeah, I was getting 17.
We're just gonna wait till he gets the copy back.
He died like 3
Wait till
days
John
before
gets his
the end of
copies
the
back.
month. They went back, they had already
Went to go make
deposited.
copies of them.
Took the money
They're
out.
saying if
So I
they
ended up in a hole.
play
And
Boston,
I just got a
they
call
said
from
every
that.
game will start about
Arguing with
8:30,
assisted living people.
and then if they make it to the finals, each
They
game's
took
like
his,
9:20.
Wait, did he? Well, he was
There'll
getting
be some
good
late
benefit
nights for the
also.
next month.
They didn't take that. They took the VA benefits. That plus then these places, the last month, you know, they jack up. There's more services. Yeah. Okay. They don't tell you that when you come in. Oh, you could expect this. Because you go in, it's a pretty good price. Like, oh, okay, we got that covered. That's what happened. Last 2 months, it was like,
Yeah, they end up
whoa,
fourth, right?
It still would have got it. Still would have got it.
I think they're fairly
Never thought
comfortable
they'd
with
go
Boston,
back in and
too.
take the money.
Yeah, they didn't want to play Indiana.
So we're protesting it now. I don't know if we have, you know.
Philly just is inexperienced. They're going to be
Yeah,
a
well,
team
they refused us
to
once.
reckon with.
We're trying again. Well, yeah, you can still write letters.
We're just waiting on his copies. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our caucus. On this evening, we will be caucusing again about My Neighborhood, Our Akron. We remember during our budget hearings, we had talked about the grant program being underutilized. We had budgeted for 2 years, $100,000 a year. And John, you can correct me. How much did we spend total?
I provided that to everybody. I think it adds up to about 39,000.
It's about 39,000 since we started the program.
Over the 3 years. 2015, 16, 17, correct.
So we just wanted to have some conversation, of course, on this evening about the program. Maybe one of the reasons why the program is underutilized, maybe it's just the fact that us as council members maybe need to have a better understanding of the program so that we can market it a little bit better. So that's why I've asked Mr. John Valley to be here, and if he can kind of just explain the grant program to us and maybe answer some questions that council members might have.
All right, bear with me. Just want to go back how this all started. I believe it was back in 2012 or 13. We had residents, and even residents in my previous position as the deputy service director, would reach out to me, and they were looking to do something in the community, whether it was a park improvement or as an Eagle Scout trying to get an Eagle Scout badge, or a business trying to give back and do something in the community. So we started a program, it was called Litter Ambassadors, I believe, and Councilman Neal, Councilwoman Keith, Councilman Kamer, and Councilman Bob Hoke were originally involved in that process. Within the first year, we changed it to the My Neighborhood, Our Akron initiative, and what we did is we started holding a monthly meeting at one of the community centers in each ward, and the meetings were twofold. One, we were trying to toot our horns and introduce that recreation supervisor to the community, and we invite the community, block watch captains, anybody that was engaged in that neighborhood or at that community center. And then we invited people from the community too. So we would have, a meeting once a month, maybe an hour to an hour and a half, and we talked about the good, positive things that were going on in that community. And then we would brainstorm towards the end, let's come up with a project, let's come up with something that we can get community engaged, whether it's Boy Scouts, youth sports, block watch captains, churches, whoever. Let's try to come up with something. And we did some pretty incredible things, I feel, during the course of the year. And then in 2015, that was the first year we did get funding for the My Neighborhood, Our Akron /City Council grants. And of course, our department, Karen Haig, my executive assistant, she kind of oversees it, and there's a committee, an executive committee, that all these grants, they go out to the committee to review, and we either get approval or disapproval, and then of course it goes to the law department. But the grants were designed to strengthen the core groups of neighborhoods and to provide resources for neighborhood revitalization efforts. The grants range from $250 to the low end to $1,000 max. Matching grants are $1 for dollar. Project purchases, donations, or volunteer hours are valued at $10 an hour. That's for the volunteer hours. Eligible applicants were for block watches, neighborhood-based organizations, scout, community gardens, youth sports, senior groups, et cetera, and the faith-based partnerships were eligible, but you need to have the 501c3 or have a fiscal agent with a 501c3 to partner with. Some of the ineligible projects are giveaway projects like back to school, Halloween, Christmas events, festivals, parades, or picnics, or for a business or for an individual. Those are some of the ideas of what are eligible and what aren't eligible. On the back of that page, there is a listing of 2015, our history. We had 35 grants that we received applications for. 22 of those grants were approved. There's a breakdown by ward. The total in year one was $14,577. Year two, 2016, there were 10 that were applied. 25 applications, 10 were approved, and there's the breakdown by ward. And of course, there's the dollar figure that we gave away. 2017, we had 28 applications, and 18 were approved for $15,688.21. We have an inventory, I didn't provide that with you guys, of supplies that My Neighborhood, Our Akron Department Neighborhood Assistance purchased, where we got like an inventory of shovels and buckets and cleaning materials and clippers and ball planters, and list goes on and on and on. So we do have some tools, some equipment that we do utilize when we're working with the groups. And then the actual application, I can briefly just kind of leaf you through that. Our mission statement's on page 2, empowering residents of the city of Akron to actively participate in the improvement of their neighborhoods and parks through education and collaboration with groups. There's the overview, and then we talk about our goals. My Neighborhood, Our Akron City Council Neighborhood Grant Program is purposely designed to strengthen core civic groups of Akron neighborhoods, to provide much needed resources in neighborhoods through revitalization efforts. A major goal of the program is to foster a positive relationship between My Neighborhood, Our Akron City Council, neighborhood residents, and various partnerships with community-based groups through a variety of neighborhood-based projects and activities. Again, they mentioned the eligible applicants. I kind of briefly touched on that. And then again, they talk about some of the ineligible projects. On page 3, they talk a little bit about, the matching contribution, the volunteer labor, the hours, supplies, and things like that. And then you actually get into the application itself, and everybody does have a copy of it. So I would ask that Shamus Malik from the law department kind of walk you guys through the actual ordinance, and then it's probably better to just kind of open it up and we'll take any questions or, from council members. No, the red button.
Yeah, it's not there.
There it is.
All right, sorry. So 63-2017 authorized the program for the current year, and as Mr. Valley mentioned, had restrictions on the amount of each grant, $250 to $1,000, limits it to neighborhood-based organizations, and requires that grant recipients contribute matching funds or in-kind donations of and volunteer labor or other donations, and then establishes the executive committee made up of members of this council, the Department of Neighborhood Assistance, and the community to review the grants. And then there was an amendment also to clarify that the funds are used for the civic purposes of the organizations. That was made then, I think, thereafter. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. I guess probably just open it up to questions. I think that would probably be the best way of handling it.
Before we open up, I just have one question. Sure. John, if you can kind of just explain, when we look at the number of groups that applied and those approved, can you just let us know some of the reasons why some of these get denied, like what some of the issues are?
I will have to get you that information, but I'm looking at 2016, and the first one I see on there is Akron Creative for $994 for whatever reason that was denied. I see another one in there, a belt and sock giveaway that was denied because we don't want to do it for giveaways and things like that. I see one for a street beautification and citizen respite spot. I haven't read that they will apply again, and I imagine they must have applied in 2017. Big Love never followed through with paperwork. Another one for that organization never followed through with paperwork. Another one was denied. It was some type of street mural or a pizza oven in Summit Lake, and there were some issues.
What year are you talking about?
I'm looking at 2016 here. I don't have anything on 17 on why any projects were denied. I just have 16 and 17. I can find out the exact reasons, but looking at some of them, East Akron Parade, because of the fact that it was a parade. Let's see. And then looking at 2017, Akron Blind Center, there was an application, but they never did the project. City Sprouts never followed through with paperwork. Firestone Park YMCA Education Garden never followed through with paperwork. One with West Hill Neighborhood Organization project never did get completed. Crosby Street Community Garden, waiting for more information. a lot of them, what was happened is the application would come in and it wasn't filled out properly, or we needed additional information, and sometimes it just took quite a bit of time to go ahead and get that information. But I can find out exactly why each one was denied, what the reason was.
Okay, thank you so much. I know we have two questions, Councilman Amobian and then Councilman Keith.
Again, I know very little about the projects because I'm not a ward council person. But when I look at the number of applied versus the approvals, my only question that comes to mind is, have we defined our mission or purpose too narrowly? I was under the impression when we talked about doing this, it would be something that would be left up to that ward. And it could, and I would imagine the ward council person would be involved. And sometimes different wards want to do different things to strengthen or beautify their ward. And I'm just wondering if we have too narrowly defined how the funds could be utilized. And I understand you have to go through a 501c3, and I don't know about that either, but I realize you want someone to have some kind of fiduciary responsibility for the funds, but the receipts, I think, would take care of that. But can you just answer?
Yeah, to answer your question, if you look at 2015, like I said, there were 35 submissions, and 22 of them were approved. And then 2016, we did not have a lot of grants that were approved when you look at 25 applied. And that's when we looked at revisiting the application process, revisiting the legislation to try to make it a little bit more easy for organizations. And I think we accomplished that because in 2017 we had 22 applications and 18 of them were approved. So that was a significant increase. The biggest problem is the paperwork comes in incomplete, and it's not really a complicated process. At least I don't believe it is.
Excuse me, John, can you get a little closer to the mic?
Sorry.
Drag that towards you.
So I just told Councilwoman Large Mobian and Councilman Freeman I feel guilty. I'm talking with my back to them. So
It's okay.
yes, but they said it's okay. Where was I here? So that's what we tried to do. We tried to make it easier. We tried to streamline it. We're having our monthly meetings. We're just trying to get that information out there to the public the best we can. I mean, through ward meetings, through block watch meetings. I imagine the applications are on City Council's website, I would think, I would hope, because I know that they are on ours. So we're always trying to do everything we can. Every meeting I ever go to, anywhere, I go to meetings with the senior citizens. I go to meetings at the community centers. I hold quarterly office meetings at every one of our community centers 4 times a year. I take that application with me, and I always take a couple minutes, to kind of talk about the program a little bit there.
Just one more
But I need
question.
help. I can't do it myself. I need 13 members around this chamber helping us promote this thing.
Could you give us a few examples of acceptable grants, proposals, or whatever you call them?
Any types of neighborhood improvements, improvements at parks or community centers.
Like flowers or benches or?
Playground beautification, community gardens, small home improvements for the elderly, projects that benefit the community as a
Small
whole,
home
not
improvements
just an
like what
organization.
for elderly?
Raking leaves, little painting, things like that.
Painting
like,
the house or something like that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Like a perfect example, I believe year one, the East Pee Wee Football Organization applied for a grant. And they did some cleanups and they did some work at the Reservoir Park Community Center, but they also went to the, and I forget the name of the food pantry right there off Goodyear Boulevard, the church right there, and Pioneer Street. And they went and they helped move shelves and sweep and clean and help box up food and carried the boxes out to the cars, during their food giveaway. So those are some of the
Now, if you do
ideas.
something like that with a group of kids, do you have to have any kind of insurance or liability insurance or anything?
I'm going to yield to law on that.
Because I could see that being something that they could do citywide, different groups like that could do.
I don't think generally we've had insurance requirements.
Okay.
Whether the entities themselves that are doing them have insurance requirements, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I know Councilwoman Keith's had quite a bit of cleanups and flower plantings, and I believe an organization that was successful and received the grant bought benches and chairs inside the Northwest Community Center, which is always a good thing for us and when you have recreation. So.
Who did you use as a 501c3 for that group? Who do they use? Okay.
Can you use your microphone, please?
Yes, you
May I
can.
speak now? I just wanted to say, I've been very active in this for the 3 years that we have implemented this, and am monthly to the meetings. And usually, I'm going to tell you, Karen does a phenomenal job of trying to get receipts in and information filled out. I will tell you, when someone doesn't get okayed, she doesn't just say, you need to do this. She'll explain exactly what they would need to do, why it doesn't meet the requirements, or why we can't pay you right away. Some of them are just so way off target, and I'll give you a real good, for instance, the Battered Women's Shelter wanted a grant for their playground. They were going to do improvements to their playground. That is only for the Battered Women's Shelter. We couldn't accept that one because it wasn't for the entire neighborhood. It's for one little private thing. Although we all wanted to, it isn't part of our criteria here of how we did it. And the other thing is that we tried to make it where it beautifies your neighborhood. Okay, so it improves your neighborhood to some degree. And what John had mentioned was, we do an annual now at Northwest Community Center. We have Girl Scouts, dancers, people that come there for music, Boy Scouts, wrestlers. I can't tell you how many come on one day of the year. We clear all the flower beds, we edge them, we cut down all the grasses, we weed, we power wash where necessary, and then we plant anywhere from 300 to 500 bulbs. Now, with that manpower that worked that day that signed in, and that's another thing. A lot of times when you get these sign-in sheets, and they're all the same writing, and they're all in the same pen, you know, did you have it? And it's up to the ward council person, because our names are on here, that they should be contacting the ward council person, and you should be, and I believe that Karen's pretty good about saying, this came in, this grant came in your ward, and do you approve of it? Do you have anything you want to add to it, so that we know when we're looking at them that they even happen too? That's the other thing. When you do a cleanup, the ward council person needs to be aware that that grant is coming through, and did you check to make sure it happened? So anyhow, I will tell you that Karen does a great job. If people don't get it in, she even continues months later to try to get the loose edges picked up. Now, what we did is when the check came, it was not written to us. It went to West Akron Baseball League. What we had earmarked for that first year was to do benches for inside the community center, because we needed more because of the numerous programs. We are now working on doing a storybook walk, where there will be, along our walking path, they will be, because we are adjacent to the library, the community center and library are all under kind of one umbrella there, that our little walkway out there, we have a storybook walkway. Now, that isn't going to happen all in 1 year, so as we move forward, we just keep adding to it. But I will tell you that the minute these come out, I'm in front of in front of my ward talking about them and trying to get people involved in it. But you do need a fiscal agent, and these are not hard to fill out at all. And the other thing that you have to say, if they want to get paid back for a lawnmower or something like that, we don't reimburse for those kind of things, okay? It's something that we, something like a computer or something that helps them with their project, we do not reimbursed for. What we suggest is that they get the Keep Akron Beautiful trailer to help them with some of the needs that they have, and anything that is a donation in the sense of when we do our planting of the flowers, if I were to bring fertilizer or something like that, that can be written off as a donation and help you with your project as for money-wise. But Shamus, you probably know more. But actually, since the law department with Shamus in there, it's been a little bit more strict than it was in other years as to what you required and the order it came in. And Karen is very, very good about the minute it all comes in, she walks it over to the law department. But sometimes people, the other problem is people think that check writing should be a turnaround like this, and it isn't going to happen. You will get that check. And getting a fiscal agent is sometimes a difficult time for some. So if you know of fiscal agents that you can help these small groups with, that's where you can help out. And you also want to identify the project probably at your ward meeting and say what they did so that we just keep promoting it.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Too want to thank John and Mr. Valley and Ms. Haig for the work that they do with the program. You know, I think one way we can, your point is well noted. You know, we need to find out why the groups that were denied it. Were they directly asking for funding for programs that we have listed are ineligible, or was there something else that we can work to make this easier? You know, the fact that some didn't turn into paperwork could be challenging. Maybe we could work to make it a little bit more streamlined, because I know the one project that was well documented that I did with folks, the Bookville basketball team and the PTA and whatnot, that was well documented. And I just thought of the time that Karen had to put in, yourself, the law department had to put in, going back and forth with the paperwork. If we could streamline that more, and I've shared this with Mr. Valley, if we on council can be responsible for approving $1 billion budget just about, then if there's something in our ward where an organization is working on it and there's a question, the council person should be able to say, hey, that's approved, and work with them to get the paperwork, to get, you know, to get things moved. Because, I mean, the time, I don't know what your billable hours would be, but I know just on that one grant alone, it started in October, and we're just now getting ready to get them paid. And part of it was because there was some documentation that needed to be, and I understand that, but we've got to remember where we have a law department, and that's you know, we have departments and that's their business. These folks are all volunteers working other jobs, and sometimes the communication doesn't flow properly, and so it just takes for a lot of time. So I think one, streamlining that, having the council person be able to say, hey, yes, I know this organization, I'll verify stuff, get it going, and then work to get the paper work. And then I think the council person should be able to verify if a project is needed in their ward. I had a project in my ward where, and I know Ms. Sims was at that meeting, and I think Mr. Valley may have been at that meeting or at least helped. And it was one where I had block clubs from all over the ward come, and we did a branding project. And what we wanted to do is put banners on them. They're branded all throughout the ward. And for technical reasons, it didn't get approved. I mean, we spent a lot of time planning and putting things together, and it was to brand and identify the ward. Now, since then, you know, the city's moved to do some things to brand and identify areas with artwork and whatnot. We were just a little bit ahead of the game, but that was a ward project, and it was to utilize all of the dollars. So I'm saying, I think we need to empower the ward council person to where if there's a project, you know, let them have say on it, and then let them work with their people to get whatever's needed. So that, because the most important thing is for us to, you know, the most important thing is for us to be able to inspire our residents to continue to be engaged, to take ownership and improve the community, their local neighborhoods.
Thank you so much. I just have one question, John, right quick. Because you were talking about the banners, and see, to me, banners would be a part of beautification, but you can purchase benches, so that's where I'm kind of confused, too.
Well, Let me just jump in there. I thought it was a great project, and I thought it was probably a better fit for the planning, the neighborhood partnership, because the amount was $8,000 or $9,000, and each ward receives a total of $10,000, but it had been broken down into 7 or 8 $1,000 individual grants. So that's what the problem was on
And
that
that's,
thing.
see, that's the way we were,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what happened with the Bookto project, why that one was a problem, because there were a number of groups that came together, all using that project. The way we did this, I had all my different block clubs come together, and we formed it, so it could have been broken down into, I mean, that's a technicality that could be worked through, and I understand we're in the beginning, so we're working things through, but I'm saying if a council person comes through and they're working with their people, we need to let those kind of projects go through. It's a learning experience.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Sims?
I was going to say, that could have been one of the discouraging factors, too, because it was a lot of time invested in that. You know, now I go down Copley Road, there's like Lock 3 signs up, and you kind of think, well, you know, we had this wonderful project to do the banners there. One of the things I thought that would help maybe one of the requirements, you know, us at-large people don't get money, but we're not mad about that, are we? But one of the things may be helpful if there's some way that maybe quarterly those folks, or twice within the grant period, report out at your ward meetings, so that if there was challenges with paperwork, that you can kind of mediate it there. It would help to kind of streamline the process. I do still think that there are opportunities that are citywide, that as at-large members, having some money would be nice. I know we had one project where they were doing neighborhood development. I think it was a community organizing group, or the room. We were looking for some money to support it because it was a plan for across the city, but we didn't have the resources to do that. So just trying to figure out how can we, outside of dispersing the information, be able to identify where we can use resources where it's impactful across the city.
Thank
you.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. I was going to talk to council about this anyways, but we are currently working on the summer slide program. This council has supported in the past. And we have, as a matter of fact, I'll pass this out. We have data from SEI from last year's program that shows that it in fact is making a difference in terms of the kids out there. The problem of it is that I don't know if it's going to fit within this particular criteria, and if we don't want to pull it from here, and I'm basing that on how much we spent and how much we have budgeted for this year. I know we have, I think, $40,000 or $50,000 in the budget for this program for this year, but I'm asking for like $6,000 to get this going, and this would be a citywide type of, we got 6 areas that we would like to focus on. What had happened was the first year it kind of limped along. Last year, though, Mr. McGill came up with a brilliant idea, and that is evolving it around the lunch program, and so we did that. And so with that, we're finding that it does make a difference. That 9 weeks or so in between fall and summer, the kids, they're human just like us. They just forget things. This is matched up with volunteers. There's a little bit, there's coordination that is required, and based on the fact that, you know, we have cut the recreation, as we all know, we've cut the recreation budget significantly. It's harder for them to be able to do this. But this partnership with Akron Public Schools, SEI, is going to help us continue this program and perhaps collect some more data, and maybe, you know, next year, you know, if we have enough data, we can maybe go to some of these foundations and look at a citywide type of a program. But I think you'll find that this thing here is, it's good news, and this program that we, in partnership with Recreation, the City of Akron, and Akron Public Schools SEI is working, and council has supported this and appreciate that. If not from here, then I'll probably be coming back to council, and we'll identify some sources elsewhere. But this is one way the council at large we can maybe be part of it.
Any other council members that have any comments that have not got a chance to speak yet? Councilman Freeman?
No, just referring to the program that Councilman Fusco, I mean, I remember a year or two back, we had some really good results from that program. I mean, if we could see clear to do that, I think it'd be wonderful if we could use some money.
Councilman Keith, did you still have a comment?
I just wanted to correct something that actually you said. When our project that we did was a cleanup project, and with the money that we got from the project, our grant money is what we used to buy the benches and stuff inside. That wasn't the beautification.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
Gotcha.
it qualified for the grant, was the cleanup of the other.
Got it, thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you. You know, as we talk about this program, Councilman Fusco brought up another good program. One for the at-large folks. The money is allocated per ward, but if whatever you're doing is happening in that ward, it's not, you can see it's not that council person's money. If it's happening in that ward, then you can draw from whatever their budget is. I just want to state that. But one of my concerns with this program, and the concern I have with us cutting it to 40,000, is that one, if we don't use it all, where does it go? And this question has been asked every year. So out of the $250,000, we use $38,781.36. Where is the $211,218.64? Where's that money?
I don't see anybody from finance, but I'm sure I can answer it. Any unused dollars
Please
go
don't say the general fund.
right back into the general fund.
And that is a problem, because every time when it comes for us looking for a program, we're wondering where's the money. And we are the body that approves the budget. You know, at the request of, when we, you know, and this, every time we have a question about the budget and money and where it is, we never get those answers. And we can't really, this is the only program that we have to engage residents. You know, this is the only neighborhood improvement program of any sort that council actually regulates. And we cut it by $60,000. And we can't, nobody can tell us where the $211,000 is that we didn't use. That's why I'm opposed to us cutting the budget, because then it comes back to, okay, so now where do we get the money? We've already set the budget. Where do we get the money from? So, you know, what I am for is that we go back and retain, since nobody can tell us where the $211,000 is, it's unacceptable to say it just went back to the general fund when we had a $9 million shortfall last year. This money, if we don't budget for it, technically it's not going to be there. Council needs to hold on to this little bit of money. We need to see how we can better infuse it into our neighborhoods to do the work that we want to do. And then we need to go out and find more money. And so, you know, no matter what we talk about around this horseshoe, the budget is always a part of the discussion, because that's what funds everything. That's what's impacted by it. So, you know, I think, again, just summarizing comments that have been made earlier, I think every council person knows intimately their ward and can say who or what if there's some technical things, and we can ease the process and the burden on those that are involved doing administrative stuff and help them move it through. Because out of all due respect to the law department assists us, you know, and as long as there's nothing, I mean, it's our program. As long as there's nothing illegal, I mean, if a council person says, hey, look, my baseball team or my neighborhood organization is doing their part, then we can work through all the, you know, the little pieces if it meets the general concept here, so that we can get this money better utilized. But my biggest concern is that we're cutting the only program that we have to engage our residents by more than half. And no one can answer. And to me, it's a sign of disrespect when every year we ask this question, nobody can tell us where the $211,000 is.
One just point of clarification, Councilman. The legislation does specify that the executive committee of My Neighborhood Akron makes the decisions as to the grants, and specifically says that no member of council shall have sole decision-making authority.
I didn't say for that person to have sole decision authority. I'm saying that if there's, now, I sit on that, and I can't tell you when the last time I got an email about a meeting. I sit on one, and, you know, I shared, I had council members and administrative folks who were at the meeting where I worked with all of my council, you know, all of my block club persons to put that through. And because of a technicality, that wasn't approved. I'm saying, I don't know, I'm going to use Councilman Swirsky only because West Hill Neighborhood Organization comes to mind. I don't go to those meetings. If West Hill, and I think they did put something through and it wasn't, there was some stuff missing, I know what they do from a distance, but he knows intimately. If there's something that organization does so that they don't get discouraged, then work with Councilman Swirsky to get the final detail, but let's get them their dollars, because we know that they're doing something that improves the neighborhood. That's what I'm saying from that standpoint.
Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Kamer?
Thanks, Madam President. I just wanted to give my little thought about this, I guess. Just my experience. Obviously, I support the program, huge advocate of it, and I agree with some of the comments here in regards to John Valley and Karen. You folks work very hard. So I know back in 2015 and 16, I had a few groups obviously apply and get awarded, and there was one individual, she's a senior citizen in their area, and she would go out and plant flowers, tulips, I mean, she's done a wonderful job at Firestone Park, the elementary school. I could go on and on and on. But I know she didn't apply for the grant this year because obviously we changed something a year ago where a sole person can't apply for the grant. It has to be volunteers in a group.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's the language in the ordinance.
Right.
And going back, I believe that's previous years as well, but.
Well, somehow she didn't apply this year because of that, whatever the law department looked at like a year ago. So I just wanted to share that because I know Mrs. Amobian asked a question earlier in regards to some of the groups that apply for this. And here's an individual that did it herself. Her daughter works for the city of Akron, and now she doesn't apply for it no
Sorry,
more.
just to clarify, sorry, that's in the application, not the ordinance, the requirement.
Well, if it was in the application, that means in 2015 and 16, she should have been denied.
Yes, and that has been one thing is as we move forward with this, is sort of making sure that we apply things consistently, and, you know, we get these things at a case-by-case basis, you know, one comes in January, the next comes in April, and, you know, trying to look at them and make sure that we're applying the same standards, so, you know, we go back and think, okay, well, that's why the battered woman shelter one wasn't approved. Okay, well, is this similar to that? And that kind of thing.
That was an individual, and I don't believe she had a 501c3 that she was
So
associated.
they teamed up with a 501c.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Because there's another individual that did the same thing. 2015, she did it by herself. 2016, she did it by herself. But then when she applied this year, she was told by our group and Karen and that she had to have volunteers. So she went out, got a couple neighbors, a couple young children to be involved. She filled out the application, had the volunteer hours, et cetera. So I just wanted to share that with folks in regards to
Last year, 17.
last year, yeah. Moving forward, Mr. Neal brought up something, and I just want clarification. What is the grant set for right now, the allocated dollars for this year?
40,000.
40,000. And are we looking at taking away that 40,000?
I mean, I think the conversation really was more so how this body wanted to move forward. How are we going to make sure that we spend 40,000 versus sending 30,000 back to the general fund, you know, next year? I think that's the.
Okay. No, and I want to say I support keeping that $40,000 from going back into the general fund. So moving forward, if I have to say anything, I would like to keep, you know, the 40,000 or whatever we can keep into this program. And if we're not able to all agree and keep it in this program, I'd like to see us allocate it for something else that doesn't go back into the general fund. That's just my opinion. Thanks.
Councilwoman Sims, then Councilwoman Amobian.
So I think the biggest concern was, I mean, I think this last budget cycle is the first time that I've really seen any real focus on neighborhoods, where, you know, there was this concerted effort to get some things done in the neighborhood, which it seems to me it would have lend itself to a greater synergy with my neighborhood, our Akron, in support of residents who wanted to do things. But it seems like that kind of got taken away because we took over, we take 60% of the budget out, which was a little frustrating. And back to the request for, again, us at-large folks, I mean, that was kind of cumbersome too, because I think I asked you for $1,000, I was asking people for money, and it just got cumbersome, when in fact, if there was just a pool of money we could look at to do those projects that have impact across the city. So that would still be what I would advocate for, but I'm concerned that we don't have, you know, that we took 60%, you know, not even 50%, but just 60%, and now we have all this movement, it looks like, that's focusing a little more on the neighborhoods, but we don't have the leveraging capability because we only got $40,000. And so, and I don't know, you know, since everything went back to Joseph, I'm not sure, even if we ran out of that money, I mean, do we have any more resources? Probably not. So that's, I mean, I think that's my biggest concern.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mobian?
I was sitting here just kind of thinking about something that Councilwoman Keith said about the battered women's shelter. In my mind, that could be a great way for the at-large members to utilize whatever, because that program impacts, well, Summit County and Medina County, but I would imagine most of those women there are probably from the Akron area. And I wasn't really clear on the learning program, the summer learning program. Did you say that was a council program we made the donation, or a city? How did they get there from? You talking about the sliding thing downtown on Main Street?
Yeah, summer.
Oh, so I didn't see, I read about it, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
But we had we had allocated funds before for it. Like I said, this year, and we got like 6 locations, we're thinking about trying to put this in. And it is, I mean, part of the money would go toward coordination. But the thing of it is, it's pretty much driven by volunteers. A lot of them are former teachers, for the most part. And so a lot of people just volunteer, and they read with the child like twice a week. And we're finding that this is beneficial. Like I said, council, we allocated some money before. And if you think about it, like $6,000 is how much we're looking at in 6 different wards. So it's about $1,000 a ward. But
so how does this slide connect to this?
This is the result of last year's. This is analysis that SEI did on the children in terms of finding out and identifying, like measuring before and after, and preparing kids.
Participating in the slide?
These are the kids? Because they forget, and that's how they call it, summer slide.
Councilman Fusco,
This had come from...
Councilwoman Mobian still thinks it's the actual slide.
No. It's a term. It's a term that's used because kids forget.
Well, help me out.
They slide.
I never had a water slide down on Main Street. Yeah, I never had a water slide on Main Street. Well, help me out.
I'm just trying to help her. Okay.
When you don't have children or grandchildren, you don't know all these things. So.
It's a summer reading program. And
Okay.
That makes it easier.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Councilwoman Mobian, at the end of the summer, there's a big shindig down at Lock 3, and there is a big slide, and they do get the big slide.
Thank you very much for helping me out.
Thank
But
you.
no, I was just thinking in terms of if we were ever included as at-large members, that projects that impact the city, that we can't think of how they are connected to a neighborhood, that could be a nice way to jump in and do something and make a contribution.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And like I said, having met with Brittany Schmokel and Carla Sibley and the representatives from SEI, we definitely want to try to get this going again this year and perhaps get more data, more kids involved, and then we can look at expansion. that's what we're ultimately would like to see.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Neal?
Just real quick, hearing the concerns, one quick thing, if we're saying that this is going to stay at 40, and if there was more, we could get more, where would that more come from? Because the reason why I'm asking, hearing what everyone said, I'd like for us as council to look at keeping it at the 100. I agree with Councilman Kamer, if something's not used and it stays in a fund just for council, so that we can do neighborhood improvements, and it would give us time to work on how we would utilize that money. Because if we don't budget it, it won't be there.
Exactly. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I think just moving forward, just to summarize some things, because it seems like, John, one of the biggest issues was paperwork not being filled out or not getting back. Is there any way that we can streamline the process? I don't know. This might be, as simple as it gets. I don't know.
I would go ahead and yield to Law Department. I don't know if we plan on taking another look at the application process.
Yeah, last year, excuse me, last year we went ahead and, having a tough time over here, we redid the application, we redid the forms, we tried to simplify it and make it streamlined, but part of it is just that, there's this sort of natural issue. If you back and forth takes time, and missed phone calls and that kind of thing, it takes time. But that's something that we can continue working on to try to make it simpler. But at the end of the day, there is certain documentation that is needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this topic? Councilwoman Sims?
I know our intern has some assignments based on what our needs are. Can the intern be used to help us in trying to streamline some of those issues?
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Sims.
I said I know we have an intern, and I know her assignments get kind of divvied out by Sarah. But is that something that she could help to support staff folks, council members, to kind of help streamline some of that? Or mediate some of that?
Possibly. I'm looking at Sarah over here because we just found out that our intern really only has 1 week left with us. She was supposed to be with us until July, so we're trying to
maybe the next one
negotiate that, but possibly, absolutely.
Thank you.
And then just Shamus, in the charter, is there anything that says monies that aren't used, do they have to go back to the general fund? Is that
I can't speak to, but I can look into that.
Okay.
We can get back to you.
I know we can bring in legislation allocating how those funds are saved. I mean, that's within our authority.
Okay. Councilman Keith?
One thing I will say is when something is, Karen has paperwork that comes in, she often will send you, as council people, reminders of what she's still waiting on or the reason why, okay? Now, she doesn't always hear back from all of us, so it would be good if we do want these for in our ward, that we are attentive to what they are asking, what Karen is asking for, because she is really diligent on getting what is needed. And just so you know, I'm not the only one on the board. I show up all the time for the meetings, but we also have a number of other people and community people that are helping us now on the board to say, yes, this sounds like a good project, or no, because we don't want it all to be council members that are in there either. But having said that, let's be resolved to look at our emails a little bit more.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Sims?
And sometimes, even as at-large members, as we help to try and disseminate information, help people better understand the process, we don't always know what comes to you all as being problematic. And so if there was some clearing, so we know, so you have to do this, or you have to do this. This is some of the challenges we had for why this person didn't get funded. We don't know that because that doesn't come to us as at-large members. So having someone, if that was some work that possibly our intern could do, it would better centralize some of the challenges that we could probably get at better.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, just want to thank John Valley and Karen for all that you do. We appreciate you dearly. Before we adjourn, Clerk, I'm just going to ask if you pass one of these out to every council member. Just want to go over one thing with council members before we adjourn. Hand me one too, Clerk, I'm sorry.
Are we, you don't need us for
No,
this
you-
part, okay.
Yep.
You can go.
And just so that all council members know what you have in front of you. You said what? No. Let me first explain what the whole concept and idea of it is. And partially, some of it is, Councilman Neal, you have said on many occasions that we have to do a better job with following up, with people who come down with public comment, period. And so one of the biggest issues is that we hear from a lot of people, and a lot of times when they're at the podium, they're not even writing down their names and their addresses, so we can't even properly go back and follow up with individuals. The other issue is that just as it happened on last Monday, we had about 4 different individuals that came down talking about the issues with the tunnel project. And we didn't have anyone here from that department that was really going to be able to address some of those constituents' concerns. So what we're talking about potentially doing is doing a public comment request form. Number one, that way we can do a better follow-up. So if someone comes down and they have an issue in Ward 3, that council person can be copied with this form as a way that the council person can also follow up, but also that the department can better follow up. And then we can also make sure that departments are present on the night of council meetings to address some of those concerns. So we just want you to look at the form, see if it's something that this body would like to adopt. Go ahead, Councilman Neal.
I respect, because I do think we need to follow up, but I think it's something that if they want their issue with official follow-up, maybe they can fill out the form. But public comment period, I think it's very beneficial the way it is. I agree with you, we do need a way to document so we can follow up. But I mean, because this takes back, if any of you have ever tried to go speak before the school board, if you don't get your request in, it's very cumbersome. And I remember the discussion that went into us to be able to get the open comment period. Mm-hmm. I think, to your point, whoever wants an official follow-up, if they can fill this out, I think would be good. Because then a copy could go to our records as a whole and then to whoever specifically. But to do this, for them to be able to speak at all, I think would be taking us a step backwards.
Councilman Fusco?
I recommend that we talk about this individually in terms of all the details about the whole thing before it's even, brought forward, so, thanks.
Councilman Kamer?
I just wanted to take a second to comment too. I'm looking through this. I haven't read it all, but I appreciate this, but automatically I'm opposed to the first line. I just don't think it's right that someone needs to submit something to our clerk's office by 4:30 p.m. So I'll be against that.
Councilman Kilby?
Thank you. I think our public speaking thing has been working out pretty good. If you want to do this, voluntarily, if they want to come down here and say, well, I'm going to come down and speak, I would like to have an answer to a particular question. It might be technical, and they want certain people to be here, that's fine, but I think anybody that wants to come in off the street can have their 3 minutes without going through this if they don't want to.
Councilman Obian?
I certainly agree. I think I have really learned a lot from the people that have come down to address us. Sometimes it may be just reminding them to sign in. And if they don't, do we not have them on the system, the microphone or the recording?
Yeah, and again, it's just sometimes it's like issues where it's hard to maybe someone hear someone saying their name and their addresses. So again, the form is not a way to cease public comment period or anything like that, but just a way for us to be able to properly address some of the issues, do some proper follow-up, and also just make sure that each council person has some form of record or document for, some of those issues. That's really what the form was designed for, not in any sense of the meaning to prevent people from having any comments during public comment.
So what I'm thinking that perhaps we can rework this to make it available to those individuals who have spoken or wish to speak at some point, so they can provide all the information that's needed to follow up. But public comment, the way it is, I really have learned a lot.
Absolutely.
I don't think we'll, if I could.
Go ahead. Yes, Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. I don't want, you okay? The thing of it is that this is not going to inhibit that at all whatsoever. In terms of all it's going to, everyone signs in, or at least they're asked to sign in before they comment. Oftentimes they don't sign in, so we don't really have a record of it. But I don't think this is too cumbersome. I know Sarah had done quite a bit of research in terms of some best practices from other cities out there, and there's cities all over the country, all over Ohio as well, that just ask for a little bit more information, and this could be tweaked and changed and evolve over time. But if it's too cumbersome, you think in terms of asking people, they pretty much probably know that they're going to want to comment whenever they come here. Ask them, send in an email beforehand, like before 4:30 is what I think this one says. But we can even change that to 6:30 or what have you. But there's really not that big of, and plus the other side of this thing I thought was, that's interesting, is the rules are outlined. So everybody kind of knows coming in what the expectations are.
Exactly. So again, just go ahead, Councilman Kamer.
I just want to rebuttal what you said. No, I still stand with the first line. I believe with social media, us live streaming in today's world, with the press releases that the mayor's office sends out, sometimes the newspapers are here and they've already got online articles going out. I believe we should be transparent and open to anybody that wants to come and speak, even if it's at 6:59. But as I read through this, I agree with this. I like this. I believe it puts their name on paper, address, it states our rules, but I'm totally against that first line. Anybody that with social media, the last minute updates they get on any kind of news outlets, I believe they have every right to come down here at 6:59 and say, hey, you know what? I just got off work and I want to speak. So that's my biggest.
And just again, so everyone is clear, this is just something to look at and to begin to kind of think about how we streamline and better serve our constituencies, okay? Councilwoman Sims?
Thank you, Madam President. I would hope, too, in addition to a sheet like this, that there would be a centralized location where departments are responding, that we can go in there and look to see how they responded. Because I think I asked the question today, did somebody answer the folks who were there last week? I think that's important for us to know. But I do, again, I appreciate the effort to try to inject some organization to this badge sometimes, but I think it's so beneficial for some of the reasons that Councilman Neal and Kamer articulated. Some stuff just comes out. I'm reading it at the same time the public is reading it. And they have some questions or they have some concerns, and they'll come right down here to have some comments about it. And I think we have to kind of leave room for that to happen. So with that in mind, I think the public comment, as it currently stands, that anybody can come at any time, not at any time, but during that comment period and have some say. But this is, I think, will be helpful to making sure that we know the constituents' concerns have been answered, that the departments are responding to it too. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, if there's nothing else coming before us, we will adjourn.